I'm Carrie Gard, and welcome back to Back on Track. As your host here, I like being in front of the camera, which is super fun, but more importantly, I really love being behind the scenes where I run MKG Marketing. We're a demand generation agency for B2B tech, and we do it through two levers. Search visibility optimization, where we help you get found in SEO and AI search, and paid ads, visibility and demand working together. So a conversation about building exactly that across 60 countries and 32 languages. That's right in my wheelhouse. And I've been looking forward to this conversation because here's the thing most global B2B companies get wrong. They treat international demand gen like a numbers game. Same generic campaign, translated once, blasted across every border. And then they're surprised when engagement falls off a cliff. My guest today has built the opposite of that. Chloe Addis is head of marketing at Headley Media, where she runs demand generation across 7 tech verticals and 32 languages for an audience spanning the globe. She's also the co-host of B2B Marketers Off the Record. So she's living the corporate media shift from both sides of the glass. She's worked partner marketing alongside retail giants, and she thinks about audience trust and data compliance at a scale most of us only read about. Chloe, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you so much for having me. What an intro.
I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, that was a lot. I'm working on my messaging and my intro. So yeah, I'm definitely like still figuring out my own messaging. I don't know how you feel about this because you're in an interesting spot, sort of working for a media and marketing company and also doing the media and marketing for that company. And it's hard to do it for your own shop, I find.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, there's all of that like transferable knowledge. And then, exactly that. There's so many agencies out there, aren't there, that whose actual marketing for themselves comes last. It's just such a common thing. But no, you're right. Yeah. It's very meta, doing the marketing for the marketing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's so much easier doing it for our clients. It's so much harder doing it for ourselves, I find. So I'm grateful that you're here today and you're gonna help me out because I'm on the struggle bus. Before we get into it, quick warm up round for anyone who hasn't come across Headley Media. Paint the picture for us. What do you actually do, and who are you trying to reach?
Yeah, so Headley Media is a content syndication lead generation company, and yeah, we work with technology companies. So we're lucky enough to have our own brands that are dedicated content libraries for across 7 different verticals of tech, and those brands cater to technical professionals, and we essentially work with marketers in technology companies to help them reach their audiences.
I find marketers are the hardest to market to too. Am I crazy? Like we know too much.
You see through things. They're like, oh, you're doing this because it's like an age-old technique, and you're like, damn it. But I think that absolutely they can be the hardest. But that, I think I try to look at that as on the positive side, where like, okay, they're bringing the best out of me. I've got to do my best work because I'm talking to people that know the game. So
they do know the game. I love that. And I agree. I talked to Jane Sarah a few weeks ago, and she said something very similarly about how she does feel like marketers are in the same boat of helping other marketers out, and that there is that sort of camaraderie that sort of happens of like, we get it. Like, you're trying to do your own marketing and we are marketers, and like, we're all in this together. So I really I love that perspective. That's lovely. You said across 7 verticals and 32 languages. When you say demand gen at that scale, what does a normal week look like for you? I have to imagine the context switching is a lot.
Well, so yeah, and obviously, it's not just me at the our company, but
That's good to know.
So It's what is essentially those statistics. We call them our stats, and we joke about having them sort of tattooed on our arms with the 32 languages, and it's over kind of 300 websites, 60 countries, etc. But that's essentially our product offering of what we can provide, essentially for marketing campaigns to reach those audiences. So it is huge, and it's grown from these engaged audiences, like I said, kind of on the technology front. So we're very lucky to have those audiences that are engaged and kind of working across that. So day to day, I think it's campaign management, I suppose, is the main, what the day to day looks like, which I guess a lot of people can kind of relate to if they're part of a team, or regional marketing manager, or that kind of thing. It just or kind of on the smaller end of the scale, you're trying to do it all.
Yeah, so many marketing teams these days are lean and mean, for sure. In terms of this is the offering for these different countries in terms of being in these places, but I imagine you have to actually market there as well. Do you have teams in every country? Are you leading? Is your team from the UK sort of leading the charge? How's that structure in terms of marketing to these different countries, and how does language play a role?
Yeah, so I think to focus on the language element of it. So how we're set up is our focus in the UK, and then we are running these campaigns in country in language. And so I think I really, the conversation for me is in the area of, okay, is people are assuming at the very basis it's like, yeah, I'm a regional marketing manager, and then you just translate what you've got and that will work in the local territory. I think, I suppose to kind of get into it and unpack what I think you're getting at, which is like, what are the challenges? What are the how do we do this day to day?
Yeah.
And that sort of comes back to recognizing that there are huge cultural differences, that something that works for you in wherever you're based, but say it's US, say it's UK, that those languages don't. It's not just about translating the language. It's does it, especially when we deal with technology content. So that even that kind of niche language is that much more specific. So does it translate okay in terms of the actual language, but does it mean does it mean the same thing?
Right.
So we've got a whole thing about learning your audience properly, learning and having that platform with which to reach those audiences from you, and kind of looking, I guess one of the main things that I would say is or one of the main challenges to overcome when you're looking to launch in a new country or region, whatever you're kind of looking at, is what assumptions are you making that that are going to kind of come back and bite you? Because I think there's a lot of value assumptions of kind of and you just don't know, really, to get down to it. You can be focused on the wrong content, you can be focused on the wrong people. It can be a completely different buying group for a different country. It can be made up of genuinely different people, different job titles, or whoever it is that you're trying to target, and they can want different levels of information. Something that lands very well in the US may not land very well in Germany. They might want much more technical content, for example. And that is that's before you then consider all the regional regulations and what have we got to do to be able to fully be compliant in these regions and countries. So there's a lot to it.
There's definitely a lot to it. I don't know that everybody always thinks about the compliance part of it, and especially when you're talking about the EU versus the US. And then in the US, you have compliance in different states. And then
yes,
the UK has got compliance versus how the rest of Europe's doing it. It's, yeah. It's
and it's constantly changing as well. You think you know it, and then it's like, like you just mentioned, the States have another update, and then things are different in California or whatever, and you're just like, right, okay.
Yeah. How do you keep up with it all? I mean, to your point, it is constantly changing, and every place is a little different. So I feel like most people, this is perfect timing. I was actually sitting down with a compliance lawyer because my husband built a product and we're in Europe. And so we want to make sure that we are compliant and all these things. And she's like, you're already thinking ahead, because most people just go to this website and download these forms and check the box that they did the thing and they posted it to their website. So you actually thinking about what the forms are and what they mean and what you're actually agreeing to is well above and beyond. Are you finding that in what you're doing as well, where there's those folks who are just trying to, check those boxes versus, what's sort of the difference between checking the boxes and actually being compliant? Where do you see those gaps and those holes of what people might be missing?
Yeah, I mean, it is huge. It's such a big thing, and like, luckily, it's not just me trying to deal with that on our side. We've got teams devoted to this, and it's not just your terms and conditions on your website, as you're kind of alluding to there. It's a whole lot more, and every country and region needs to be absolutely dealt with in the way, for example, use Germany again, have that double opt-in when you're generating leads, and here we can't just rely on you need to have the data processing, all of that documented. Is it legitimate interest, all of these kind of GDPR and like post-Brexit era data compliance things. But luckily it's not just me that's dealing with it. But I think to touch on the point of the business and the industry of kind of lead generation in general, it's a real I think it's definitely something that marketers need to be like at the forefront of their consideration when they're looking to, especially when they're partnering, like when they're doing their own lead generation. Absolutely, firsthand, they need to make sure that they have got whatever they need in terms of compliance and consent boxes checked. But especially when then working with a third party data handler, supplier, processor, that those things can get missed, or the waters is like, lead generation is vast. They can the waters can get muddy. So it's kind of part of our, like the way that we kind of work and have the transparency of this is built in from the beginning, with kind of the forms essentially is where it happens, and that consent piece, because it's getting, I mean, it's hugely serious, but also there's a lot of places, like if we bring it out, less focus on lead gen and focus on kind of general marketing, there's a lot of places across the funnel now where you can be generating leads and interacting with people where you have got a loss of that information and the data and the tracking and like kind of where they've come from. So I think at the point of validation and like generating a lead or anything like that, you really do need to be like, right, okay, I've got permission for this, as a full process.
I was going to ask about data because I think that's probably why people don't do the due diligence, because of how much data you lose, and because people can opt out, and they do opt out, right?
Yeah.
So how are you balancing that on your end as a marketer of making sure that you're compliant, and still tracking to make sure you have enough data to be able to make decisions?
I mean, I think it's a huge topic, and in some cases it is a headache, and in terms of like tracking through the website and things like that. There is, for for what I'm seeing, kind of like, Google Analytics and things like this, there's a lot of information, like, the cookieless era as we're kind of moving towards, etc. So it's not simple. I think that it's something that I've always said kind of about never forgetting the fundamentals of marketing, being that, the truest source of information that you have will always be from your customers themselves, your customers and prospects giving you that first-hand information. So whatever you can do at any stage to try and capture that, I think is great. Obviously, it's not just to kind of put a form in every single, like, I'm not about creating barriers, but, if you want to be able to track and you want to know where that prospect came from, ask them. Like, I think one of the most valuable things we have is just, that we're operating is on the bottom of our contact us form. We still have, where did you hear about us? And that's kind of, as I look at it, I'm like, I've got all these other information sources, but that I know, like, I trust more. And I do understand that if I think about it from my own point of view, and I was saying, where did you hear about me? I'd be like, where was the last place? So it kind of might be skewed by like last touch attribution, probably. But I think it's maybe like essentially you're asking them where's the most important place, like where did they kind of convert from? So it gives you some information, but certainly from them is hugely valuable.
Absolutely. I mean, you're like the fourth person recently to bring up that form fill and how important it is. So I had a person on my podcast last week he was the first person to say that he didn't care about that field, and that the most, like, because he had figured out attribution with down to the UTM code. But I do think that even with those, there's compliance challenges and missing data. And so, especially when you step out of the US. So I should have, I'm thinking of all these questions I want to ask Chris now about how he's navigating the global aspect of like where he's marketing. I'm gonna circle back up with him, folks. So stay tuned on that. But I do think in the meantime, back at the ranch, having that form field is still something we all could definitely be doing. I talked to somebody last week, and she said that 60% of her conversions, her customers are coming from SEO and AI search. And she knows this because of that form field. So, I mean, it's a great baseline, right? Especially if you're about to launch a new website or optimize any new campaigns, to know, okay, this is our baseline. We have currently 60% of people are saying this is where they came from. So if that number, fluctuates at all as we launch this new website, we know like the first thing we need to go fix in which channel that got rocked. So
100%.
I love that. I think I'm not giving up on that form field. And in fact, I still need to add that to our website. Let's talk about consistency, because it's so important when you're marketing these days, in regards to messaging, especially, right? And how AI search operates, where it's not looking at links anymore. It's looking at how your brand is being talked about and how what you're saying versus what customers are saying, and what, vendors and third parties and all, what everybody's saying about you, and is it in alignment? So messaging is definitely critical these days. I think people are finally on board with that. I hope, fingers crossed. How are you navigating that from a global standpoint in terms of helping to ensure that your messaging is both, localized and consistent so that everybody's getting the same message?
It's a really good question. And I think we can look at it from kind of our point of view and our client's point of view. And I think one of the main things about that is keeping it as simple as possible. But it also really heavily relies on the type, or is influenced by the type of tactic that you're bringing to market. So if you can be as clear as possible and as simple as possible with the overarching message, like the go-to market and kind of the key messages, your USPs and everything like this, then the flow down is you kind of, to a large extent, I guess a similar comparison is kind of allowing, so we're seeing a lot obviously of employee advocacy on LinkedIn. So I think this is kind of a good example that I'm hoping a lot of businesses will be able to relate to, where there's the kind of initial training where they're like, talk about these things, and, you give them some guidance. And then what you really want from employee advocacy is real connection and real relationship and real trust building, and kind of all of that good stuff that goes on in there that is a bit messy, but ultimately is building something really real. And exactly, I don't have to explain to you. You're nodding along. It's why we do the podcast. But I think that's a really good something to draw on in that that kind of relates back to it as well, is that there will be things that are inconsistent, but that if you're on a regional level, if you're understanding that, it's kind of as we like mentioned earlier, understanding your specific audiences in region and understanding that there will be nuances and there will be differences. So you will have to use different language, obviously different language, but different meaning behind the language, different ways of explaining the same things. And to a level, accepting that, as long as it stands true to what your company is trying to achieve and your values. That's my personal take on it anyway. I think that there has to be an allowance for that kind of nuance and understanding on a local level. So so the pillars,
you have the pillars in terms of what messaging points you want to hit in terms of what makes you different, but how you explain those changes depending on who you're talking to, which it's just, even if you're talking to a marketer, but they're all in different countries, it's kind of the same idea as account-based marketing in that regard. It's just instead of the role changing, it's the country changing, and
the country,
your message has to change with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes a ton of sense. I think that's, oh man, it feels, Chloe, it feels big. It feels, I'm so glad, obviously, yay for not doing it alone. In terms of all of this, we're sort of talking about a lot of different pieces here. What is as a demand generation gal working for Headley, what is your specific role in driving the business forward?
As head of marketing, and also obviously I know we're going to come on to talk about the podcast, because that's what we were kind of connecting about originally. But it's absolutely, obviously day to day, many different facets of marketing, but it is truly about the connection with technology marketing managers, and trying to drive that on the level of both brand and, ultimately we're here as part of the marketing department that support sales, aren't we? And that's how I view it. Luckily, I'm very fortunate to be able to work within a sales and marketing department that work very closely together, which I know that is not the case. There's often a great divide between sales and marketing. And so I think, don't know anything about that. No, but I think, to be, that's like, we're kind of in a lucky situation there. I know not everybody is that lucky, but that's essentially what we're contributing to revenue, aren't we? Is what we're trying to do. So in short answer, I always take it back from the day to day. Obviously, I can go into any of the day to day aspects if you'd like, but it's kind of I always separate into those two main buckets. We need to the North Star is making sure that we are providing that loop all the way through from nurturing and developing contacts and developing relationships and handing off to sales and being able to track that revenue through for our contribution to prove what we're doing, to prove that marketing works, to get reinvestment, and then part of the wider plan is being able to go off and do those individual things and having the budget for the awareness, having the budget for those like really valuable pieces that you want to test and things like this. So I don't know if that really answered your question.
No, I mean, I think that's marketing is big. Like there's a lot of moving pieces to it. And as the global head of marketing, you're sort of the visionary behind making sure all the pieces are moving towards that North Star. And as you should be. And that's a very big job, especially for the size of your company. So hats off to you. You talked about the podcast. I'm working my way towards that. So thank you for bringing it along. How does, so you started you have a podcast. Tell me what made you start a podcast and how you are planning for that to contribute to those two things that you mentioned in regards to not just your role, but the company as from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like our podcast has been like a long time ago. I feel like it's a natural evolution of everything, and it brings everything together, like the synergy of like what we're trying to do with it's born out of relationships, and it's for relationships, and it's kind of to show that. But yeah, so I it's called B2B Marketers Off the Record, and I co-host it, which I think obviously most people do assume that co-hosting is like two people together and then like inviting people on, but we're kind of separately co-hosting, as in I take some of the episodes as head of marketing, and then our associate managing director Freya takes some of the episodes too. So we're essentially dividing and conquering the workload of it. But it's born out of conversations that her and I have had for years, and that we have also had with our clients. So it's called Off the Record because it is kind of these behind the scenes conversations that we were like, this is where the valuable stuff happens. It's less like day to day, what are you doing, what are you like, what's the results, what are the numbers, and it's more like those bigger picture conversations that enable just take you out of that, have the macro view. And when you're like, okay, well, where are you headed with this, what's the next like 12 months looking like, what do you think about the industry, like what do you think about the landscape, how is it changing, what are the big things that you're considering, the challenges, what are people doing wrong, what do you think you're doing wrong, what do you want to change, that type of conversation that her and I have been having, obviously as part of the same team. And then also, like I said, kind of with technology clients, so we recognized that thread between everyone, like we're all just marketers, we're all just trying to do the thing, so it's kind of and we would be having these conversations with those as part of campaign briefings, and it's off the record, it's behind the scenes, because it's like extra information that you need to know that informed the campaign before you can you just go ahead and do this part of it. It's like all of the thinking, and all of this is what we're trying to achieve, and this is where we're trying to go, because obviously sharing that information enables a better campaign and that enables better follow, all of this. But it stops there. So we were like, we're sitting on all of this interesting information. Let's start having these conversations and A, see where it goes, B, build the relationship, and C, show us and show the capacity and the information and that different level, and connect on a different level. Of course, I don't need to explain podcasting to you.
No, but to the audience who might be thinking about it, I think this is a prime time for podcasting. I mean, I've been doing it since 2019. Like that. I've been doing it for a while, and for me, it was never about necessarily building an audience. That's a nice happenstance that's been slow and steady, for the last 6 years, and it was very much about us having the same thing of like just having these really interesting conversations and wanting to have them in
Yeah.
a way that we could capture it. And I think now with AI search in particular, and how YouTube impacts your visibility, either being a guest and or hosting your own show is a huge contributor to that. For all the things we've been talking about in terms of consistent messaging, in terms of being able to have something authentic, and AI search seems to really love when things are really in depth, which this naturally does. You have a really interesting format, unlike mine, which is a little more off the cuff, as some shows tend to be. It's unusual that I run into somebody with your format. So walk us through what your format is and how you got there.
Yeah, so it is 6 or 7 questions. I mean, I think we started out saying it was 5, but then as all things marketing do, it grew. And so it's really kind of formulaic. So we bring people on, like I said, the type of questions that we're asking. I think it starts off with a look back. So, you know, what's one thing you've changed your mind on in the last 12 months? And then it kind of goes, okay, what are you focused on? What's one thing you think most teams are doing that they should no longer be doing? Like essentially, you know, where are you placing your bets? What budget are you protecting? If, you know, I mean, if the budget is reduced, what's your one thing? Like, you know, we're really kind of digging in. So there's a couple of reasons we did it. Actually, loads of reasons we did it. One of them was that, you know, for simplicity. So for thinking about the edit and then thinking, oh, actually, we could edit the same questions together. We could like thread a whole piece and be like, these people all think this. Yeah. So like for kind of to get a pulse on, okay, well, a few people are thinking that like these leaders all view this topic the same, or like, you know, to get an idea of the market. So for that reason, but also so that we could almost exactly that, because a lot of these podcasts are kind of more about if you don't it's more about what's your specific thing, and obviously people kind of use it as a PR mechanism, which is obviously quite right, because that's what they're for reach and an audience and things, but that isn't what we wanted to focus on, because then we would be sort of diverging from this off the record idea. You know, it came out of these conversations that were more strategic, and we didn't want to then focus specifically in on the tactics. So we didn't want to kind of interview one person on their specialism, if you like. So we were like, right, we'll keep everyone from all different sort of roles as well. So it also meant that we can talk to people who are from agencies, from huge, you know, corporate global tech companies, but also smaller, you know, like you said, like your kind of clients that work with like post startup phase, that kind of unicorns, etc. You know, anyone. Also, so any type of company, but also any type of job title. You know, they could be the regional marketing manager, as we've mentioned, but they could be the CMO. They could, you know, so we've got that kind of balance, and then we're digging into, are you seeing the same things? Are you doing different things within your type of team or your subset of that team? To really give us like a really broad understanding of the different things affecting those in marketing at the moment. And so, yeah, it's shown us already. So I think we've got maybe as you know, I don't know if we said it's actually only just launched. We're in our 2nd month, and we've got we think we've done 14 episodes or something like that. We just
That's
released
awesome.
episode number 7 or 8 this week. Oh, gosh, I really should know. But we've already got some themes, but then also showing the diversity as well. Like, you know, that actually you can ask the same question to a bunch of people and think, you know, when I'm saying what's the biggest change like that you're seeing in your marketing right now, and expecting everyone to turn around and go, well, AI. But actually everyone is there has been a lot of AI, but it's been that effect for them, like it's been that's enabled them to do, or what that's stopping them from doing, or the resulting focus because of the impact of AI. So it's kind of it's allowed us to explore a lot of different things, really. So yeah,
That's so cool. Yeah, I really loved that because like I said, I hadn't run into it, and I love how you're thinking about it from not just a podcasting standpoint, but almost from a research perspective of really trying to understand the market, which is, yes, I tell everybody that hosting a podcast has been the best university course I've ever attended for the last 6 years. You learn so much from so many different people and for how they think about marketing, and you can see the trends. What trends are you seeing? You said you have 14 episodes, more on the way. It's still early days, but obviously AI is popping up. But what's one big, let me ask it this way. What's one big surprise that you're starting to see that you didn't, that caught you off guard?
I think I don't know if it's a surprise, but I think it's like cemented a few thoughts and feelings that were there. So I guess I will go down the AI topic because it is such a huge thing that is affecting marketers. But what I've seen is that it's causing, like, obviously there's a whole topic of conversation of how are we using it, what are we doing, what software are we using, how much efficiency are we creating, and that's all in and of itself fantastic. It's great to kind of share those ideas, but when I'm obviously the type of conversation that we're having that are a bit more strategic is kind of actually that there's the counter to that, and that actually people are thinking, well, what are we like? There's a lot of AI content that has arguably leveled the playing field for marketing, and that enabled people to produce a lot more. But then it's like, how are we? Everyone looks the same, it then raises a question of differentiation. And so what I'm finding is that, or the trend that I'm hearing people talk about are that the focus then is shifting to trust and relationships. So almost like the whole existence of the podcast itself is like to create that point of difference and have those relationships, and they are smaller, they are like as in a smaller kind of community, but also that they operate in the kind of the dark funnel, if you know what I mean. Like you can't ever exactly prove that the influence, but it's part of brand building and awareness, isn't it? But it's a lot more focus on that, a lot more focus on people, the human element of it, not like protecting people. That's also part of the thing when you say what's one thing that you would protect. A few people have said people, like you can get rid of my budget but don't get rid of my people, which is very human, and it's quite a heartwarming part of the podcast. So that's there's faith in humanity. I'd like bringing marketers back together. It's good. So
the human aspect
there's
is
kind of some.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I think the human aspect of marketing is make it a comeback. I'm going to say it. Yeah. Central. And I agree. Yeah. And it's nice to hear that that's what's happening in the data.
Yeah. We forget our roots, really, don't we? It's all about human connection psychology and things like that. We get too into the day-to-day of like, no, it's data, it's, but at the end of the day, we've a lot of that phrase, people buy from people, coming back to how are you trying to sell, and, moving away from the kind of boring B2B and moving into this kind of more fluid space that is potentially being influenced by all sorts of different media available, and our modern lives.
you said the podcast is helping out from a branding perspective. It's clearly helping out from a research
Yes.
perspective. You are a demand gen marketer at heart. How is it playing into the demand gen, the revenue, the pipeline, and sales? Is it, or are you keeping those separate? How are you using it in that
Yeah.
regard?
Yeah, I think we are, like anyone, you'd love to be able to say, well, actually, it's generated, like, people have come directly to us and said, that podcast was great. Let me buy. Here's my purse.
The
Or
dream.
wallet. Yeah, exactly. But no, and I think my view is that they are separate beasts at the moment, and it isn't necessarily about the figure, like as in the viewing figure. Obviously, we've only just launched, so we're not expecting, like, we're very, very proud of our 111 followers on LinkedIn.
Should
But,
be.
I know it's not bad, right? 6 weeks. But it's to that point, it isn't about that type of the numbers and kind of, I mean, and kind of as we have spoken about in this conversation, it's not trackable. It's less trackable anyway. We're struggling with attribution, not me specifically, with many things, but as a function, attribution is changing, and yeah, I think it's definitely sitting more on the kind of brand awareness side, and the content and the feedback. It's more for us at this stage. It's definitely more about that sentiment and about connecting people and yeah, can people, and they go, oh, I feel so seen, like, that when he said that on that episode, oh my God, or having those little aha moments, or oh, nobody said this before. Like, it's those kind of things that actually we're like, that's what it's meant for.
Oh, I love that. So many people talk about how they've been able to turn podcasts into these demand gen sort of ABM motions and plays, and there's definitely a place for it. Hats off to those folks who've been able to do it. I am not one of those people. Not been able to figure that out. So for me, it has very much been a relationship building, and if it does lead to the path of us being able to work together, that's like amazing. But it is more of that, like, nice to have versus running it in terms of a system that it ultimately generates leads. Yeah. It's gray and sticky and doesn't always make me feel, and with that mindset, I've always sort of struggled with that sort of feeling about it when people I mean, are very clear that this is why they do it. It's like, I get that.
Think so, and
other aspects.
That's okay. Yeah. And I think it kind of, as you've mentioned about partnerships, I think it comes back to that, isn't it? It's like, if you're going, you're hosting guests and things, if you're clear about that, it's an alignment of values, isn't it? Then okay. But in how I see the format is different to that. But again, anything, I suppose, any part of marketing, there's so many different tactics that can be turned on the head and used for something else. And that's kind of what we have at our disposal, really, is the ability to use a different tactic for something else. You could be running an ABM informed lead generation campaign, but actually it's focused on your existing customers. Like, we can kind of change things up. Why not? Like,
sure,
it can work. I can't. There's obviously going to be many examples, but I think that this, like you said, this is long form, and there's so many other points as well too. I mean, if I didn't mention LLMs and that, the content and those and having the connection with those people, is that it's building our authority, isn't it? It's building that
absolutely
that recognition. So that's obviously a key part of it as well.
Definitely. You're only 14 episodes in, but I gotta tell you, like, most people don't make it past 5 episodes. So seriously, hats off to you.
Right.
That's amazing. You've already cleared a milestone. keep on keeping on. I love that it's called Off the Record. I love the format, like I mentioned. What's one thing you've learned in the last 6 weeks? You said that you wish you had known from day one when you started. Like, to all those people who are about to start a podcast right now, what's like one solid thing that you're like, oh, I wish I knew this from day one?
I suppose it's like every marketing endeavor, is that you need a process. Like, I know we've tried, we've done well, I think, but it is like, you know, you're initially kind of testing the waters, and you've got like a format, and it's all just an idea, and then you jump off the edge of that diving board, and you're like, oh, we need this now. Like, we should really have the brand sorted. We should really, you know, and yeah, I think it's kind of been, yeah, the process. Once we realize, like, no, this needs to follow this thing, we need to every Monday or whatever be like, okay, who's lined up, who's in for the pre-call, who's in for, like, you know, all of that stuff. It's a real organization thing, which obviously, again, that's, you know, a core part of your marketing skills is being able to organize things, project management, but yeah, I think for something that is also creative and has that, like, the human element, and being like, this is going to be so fun, which it is. Like, I'm like talking to the guests is fantastic. Obviously, you're gonna come on and be one of our guests, which is, I cannot wait for, because I think we're going to have a great conversation too. But yeah, I mean, it's different like this, obviously, because I'm used to having, like, being asked the question, like, now, yeah, responding to the question, I'm thinking, God. But yeah, no, I think exactly that. It's just, it's a learning curve, but if you've got all your ducks in a row, make sure that it's all planned out beforehand, which I suppose is very, very basic advice.
You need a system. It is and it isn't. So many times I feel like this is, I'm actually, spoiler alert, or I'm going to put this out in the universe and it's going to be real now. I'm actually writing a book that is all systems thinking when it comes to marketing. Like, everything needs to have a core system on how it operates, so that you can, when you add the next thing, it has its own system that plugs in. And so when you're essentially building this marketing engine, and all of each aspect has got to be functioning on a system. I lay out our content system. I'm going to lay out our podcast system. In terms of how we approach SEO and ads, all those systems need to operate individually and be measured separately, but then they need to be connected and be working together. And so, yes, systems thinking, especially in the land and era of AI, is critical, absolutely critical. Couldn't agree more. Clearly, because I'm writing a book about it. Anyway,
fantastic. I mean, that was definitely a scoop that I've managed to get out of you.
I may have mentioned it, I don't know, but yeah, that's, we finally, like, really aligned on like what it is. And so when you said it out loud, I was like, I'm so glad somebody's saying it, because I'm gonna do a whole thing about it, because it's not just project management. Project management's a piece of it, but it needs to operate for how you move from one thing to another, and how you move things through, and how they connect. So yes, and sometimes you can't build the system until you're in it. So I think that's okay too. Like, you guys didn't really know what all those pieces were until you were in the thick of it. And everybody's system's going to be a little different depending on your resources. So I absolutely.
And it changes over time. It's like, you know, you're launching a podcast and nobody's heard of it, and it's just an idea. So you don't have anything to go off of. Whereas then you've got some episodes, you've got your branding, everything's out there, and people are coming to you to be like, can I come on your podcast? And it changes the game, doesn't it? So actually, like, what's going to set you up initially and what you want is what's going to drive it forward. And then, you know, like I think we kind of mentioned before this, it kind of not run itself. I mean, I wish it would run itself, because there's a lot that's involved, but you know, it gets easier the more the wheels are greased, I suppose.
Absolutely. It's why you have all these episodes banked, and why you're booking people
Yes.
6 weeks out, and
Yeah.
why my team has content written through January, right? Like when you have that system up and running, it can start to compound. And that's why it's so hard to get started. But if you can get started and start building the system around it, yes, it will definitely get easier for sure and give you breathing room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Chloe, I could talk to you all day. I'm so glad you're doing a podcast, because it's just, I'm even thinking about podcasting in the sense of like, if this is how one of the levers we can pull for AI search, because there aren't many. If you really think about it, we can't really go on Reddit and start talking about our brand. That would be a big no-no. We would get in a lot of trouble. We would be banned. We can't really write reviews about ourselves going on Google Business or G2. Like, we have to bring our customers in to try and do that. And that's like pulling teeth. It's really hard to build that visibility and consistently. It's essentially going back to the olden days of building brand in the way that it was just showing up with consistent messaging, right? At the core of what it is. And YouTube is a great place to do that, and doing it in a way that you can have a great conversation with somebody. I'm even going to start one. I'm going to start a show that is literally just me and my ghostwriter, and we're going to hang out and we're going to unpack a single topic that I know people are searching for, like how do I get found in AI search, right? So there's so many different formats out there that people can try. There's 3 right there between what Chloe's doing of very clear questions every time, bringing on different guests. There's a little bit more freewheeling of what I do. And then there's this other way of like, it doesn't need to be this big thing of always having new guests on every time and trying to create these relationships. It depends on what your outcomes are. And I think Chloe laid out some really beautiful outcomes of what she's trying to accomplish. Mine's very relationship based as well. Are some people who do this for lead gen and it works really well, and they're intentional about it and they're transparent about it and it works. So I'm with you, Chloe. I'm backing you up. Get started and build a system around it and do the thing. I want to just keep asking you questions and talking to you, but we are at time. Where can people find you? Where's your podcast? Where can they listen?
Yeah, amazing. So, like I said, it's called B2B Marketers Off the Record, and it is hosted within the Headley Media website, but it's also available on Apple Podcast and Spotify and YouTube, the clips and like the full video. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn, I think is the main place. Everything goes from there, really, doesn't it? That's where everything's happening. But yeah, absolutely. It's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much for allowing me to come on, and yeah, I could talk a long time. I hope it's been useful.
So good. No, thank you so much. And and thanks for riding the wave with me in the beginning as we found some other interesting topics to unpack that I surprised you with before we got into the heart of our conversation around podcasting. So I appreciate you. And I appreciate you listeners. Thanks for joining us. Shout out to Leanne for the introduction. We appreciate you. This was awesome. And we will be back. I am away next week. I'm heading on over to Switzerland to see my very best friend. And then we'll be back the week after, where I'll be having a previous guest back, where he is going to unpack what it means to build a audience and using AI to help you do that. So I'm very excited about that show. Be sure to tune in. But thank you all so much. Thank you again, Chloe. So good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks
so
for
grateful
having me.
for the conversation. And I'll see you all in a few weeks.